Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. I'm your host, Cara Wilde. This is a podcast for those of us who feel called to live in a different way, to create a new society where diversity and uniqueness is celebrated, not shamed. We're the channels of the light, co-creating a heaven on earth upon this beautiful planet. We're here to live and achieve our soul's goals in this lifetime. To us, it's not woo, it's real. Calling all the magic makers, the mystics, the empaths, the sensitives, the starseeds, the autistic ones, sometimes sidelined, sometimes scapegoated, but we know that we're here to create new pathways in the one mind, because it's not just about traversing alternative dimensions, it's also about landing and being fully alive in this gorgeous world. Hello and welcome to episode 23. Before I start this episode, just want to remind you that if you're wanting to book a one-off session with the Ancients, you need to do so by this Saturday, the 2nd of February. I did originally put Friday, but I've just seen that I put Friday, the 2nd of February in this week's love note. So to save any confusion, anybody feeling cheated or anything like that, I will stick with the one that suits you the most, which is the 2nd of February. So as long as I receive a booking notification by Saturday, you have the whole of February to actually experience your session. And you can book it online at carawilde.com. And if there's no time zone, there's no time in there that works for your time zone, let me know, because I don't mind doing lates occasionally, especially for those of you that work later, and for my American friends on Pacific time, that tends to be, an Australian time tends to be the hardest ones. So for people that want to come with questions and leave with clarity on any area of your life, then I highly encourage you to tune into your heart, see if it's the right time, no pressure, but just to let you know that it's not going to be available forever. This is the last week. Okay, so that being said, let's go to today's episode. So today's episode, I'm talking to, the Ancients aren't here, so it's not a we, it's me. I'm talking to Michelle McClintock, and we're talking about the weight of weight, the weight of the weight journey. So we're talking about, Michelle works with people that are interested in weight loss. But I like how she talks about it, because it's about releasing the emotional weight, releasing the burden. So she works a lot with people on the emotional side of their relationships with their body and their relationships with food. And in fact, she said towards the end of the podcast that they barely ever talk about food. So we talk about a lot. You know how passionate I am about this topic. We talk about the pressure on women to either lose weight or not lose weight. Is it okay to want to be slim these days? Like, whose bloody body is this? I was saying that in our culture at the moment, quite a lot of times it can feel as though my body doesn't belong to me. Everybody's got an opinion on the right way to do things, the right way to eat. It drives me insane. So we dive into that. Michelle talks about her own journey to begin with, and what led her to turn around her relationship with her body and what worked for her, and how she then went on to support other women in their own journey. We're talking about how it's not about food, the damage that the diet culture and diet industry does, what really underpins the carrying of extra weight. We talk about deprivation and how to look at what the real deprivation is, because it's never really food. Food is food is a powerful symbol for other areas of your life. We look at that, and we look at how the different foods relate to different emotions, and how different cravings can have very specific, not just nutritional information in them, but very specific emotional information. So if I give you An example, I worked out that I really wanted the crunch of crisps. This was years ago. I tend to want crisps when I'm angry. So if I get a craving for crisps, that's now one of the first things that I ask myself, am I angry about something? Whether I choose to eat the crisps after that or not is irrelevant to me. It's more about how I'm really getting my needs met. And that's what we talk about in the podcast. You know, how do we get our needs met? What does self-care even look like? I can't even stand that term anymore, the way that it's been used. So I'd be really interested in how this podcast lands with you. Michelle is really passionate about this work, and we had some juicy moments of deep connection and conversation. So yeah, enjoy the podcast and leave some comments on the post, or email me at cara@carawild.com with your thoughts, and enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Way of the Sensitive podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 23, and today, as I've already said on the introduction, we've got Michelle McClintock joining us. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Whereabouts in the US are you? I forgot to ask.
I'm in California, in the Bay Area, so more northern California. I'm inland from San Francisco.
Yeah. Do you like living there?
I love it. It's beautiful. We have so much to do here, and so many places to go and explore. It's amazing.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of jumped at the chance to get Michelle on today because she's talking about, well, we're going to talk about a subject that's really close to my heart, and people that have been following me a while know about it, and that is, oh God, even just saying the word weight loss is just, I don't even want to say it. Yeah. I don't even want to get into that whole debate of how we normally we normally talk about it. But I've got one question that I normally ask and I forgot to ask, so I'll just wind back a minute. So normally I ask people, what do they like about being a sensitive? So can you just say what you like about that?
What I like about being a sensitive is that I am so in tune with other people that it really helps me in what I do. It helps me to serve others, because being sensitive, in my healing and my coaching work, allows me to feel their emotions and to feel where they're coming from, instead of just, sometimes we get stuck in that we do X, Y, and Z with people and not everybody's the same. So it's been really helpful for me to grow my practice and grow myself.
Yeah. So the empathy bit is just, it's like that bridge to another person.
Absolutely.
Really significantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the bit that can get a bit overwhelming as well. And I'm sure, that's been a part of your understanding of your own journey with weight. Can you talk a little bit about your own journey? Because I was reading your bio, and obviously, you walk your walk, and you're kind of teaching other people the path that you've led. Is that right? Have I understood that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And being a sensitive when you're younger, like I was being very little, being told get your head out of the clouds, you're too sensitive, you're too quiet. All of those things that were such, labeled bad things when I was younger have really benefited me later on in life. But yeah, my journey, through my weight struggles and through, feeling like an ugly duckling, if you will, and just feeling like I didn't fit in. And, there's so much emphasis put on weight and looks and appearance in our society that I always felt like this really super just average person and nothing special. And, I say that in air quotes because now I'm special, right? Now I don't feel like an ordinary person, but for so long I did. Yeah. And my journey with my own weight, and, the comment of a boyfriend at me one time telling me I was pretty in my own way, and that really stuck with me. And that really, and it's so interesting. It was in the context that it was said and how it was said. That was something that, I would always go, oh, I guess I'm kind of pretty, I guess I'm kind of okay. But yeah, definitely gaining a lot of weight, struggling with self-esteem, not being happy with how I was showing up for myself in that space. Right. So carrying that extra weight for me, there was so much energetic weight that I was carrying, it wasn't just the physical weight. There was so much more that I was carrying on my body. That's what was weighing me down. That's what was really dragging me down. So just, you know, my journey through going to health coach school, becoming a healer, working on myself, changing the mindset, just the whole journey is really what completes, is really the complete package.
So was there like a significant pivot point for you in that journey, or was it a case of just, you know, bit by bit you kind of sounded like you know, you learned to really appreciate your authenticity and who you really were and what you really wanted to do and on that journey? But I'm wondering whether there was like a pivot moment for you that made a difference.
In the positive way? Well, one of the pivot moments I will tell you that got me on the journey was seeing a picture of myself. And I saw this picture of myself, and I still have it. And it was me. I was at the beach. My son was young. He was, you know, just a couple months old. And I was at this beautiful beach, and I was covered. I had a shirt on. I had shorts on. Like, I didn't even want to be seen.
Right.
I didn't even want to have a bathing suit on at the beach. And I was like, it made me sad to see that picture of myself. So that really, you know, was like, okay, I have to stop. Yeah. I have to shift. Something's got to shift because I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy in this place that I'm at. And so that was kind of the pivot towards the health. And then, you know, and, you know, went on this journey and really worked on myself. But then I still wasn't dealing with the core issues. I still wasn't dealing with the issues underneath, right? I lost the weight, but I wasn't dealing with the underneath issues. And then I ended up, that manifested as other health issues.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had a hysterectomy, and that launched me into depression and anxiety and more weight gain. And so that, I had a couple of moments that just really kind of shook me up. And and so once then I kind of got you know, after the hysterectomy and kind of dealing with the emotions and figuring out that I had, you know, some food sensitivities. I had emotions that I needed to deal with. I had trauma I had stuffed down. I had all these things going on that were just, you know how it is. We put it all in the suitcase, and then you keep stuffing it, and then the suitcase explodes. My suitcase exploded all over the place.
Right.
You know, yelling at my husband. I was snapping at my kids. It was like, it was terrible. So just kind of in my own self-discovery, and because I kept going to, you know, you go to doctors and you say, I need help. Something's wrong. And they go, oh, here, take an antidepressant. Oh, here, take hormone replacement. They just want to hand you stuff. And that's the only tools they have. So I'm not knocking the doctors at all. Those are the tools they had.
But they're limited.
Yeah, they're very limited. So I started looking at nutrition. I started looking at spirituality. I started looking at my own mindset. And that was the pivot. That was a pivot of really kind of going, okay, it's not just working to pay attention to what I'm eating. It's not just working to exercise, because all these thoughts keep coming up. All these memories keep coming up. All this stuff, all this clutter that's going on keeps coming up for me. That's what I needed to heal. That was what I needed to work on to actually release the weight. And I love when you said losing weight, that those two words are so charged, right?
Yeah.
Weight, and we all go, oh, I hate that. That means diet and restriction and deprivation. And so I always like to say release weight, because we're like, oh, let's just release it. Let's just let it go. And that just feels better for me.
Yeah.
Energetically it feels better. So that, you know, I had a couple of moments that really impacted me. So thank you for asking that.
It sounds like a real, like, journey of the heart. You know, my heart was just sinking into it, layer upon layer of what you were saying. And that is something that the diet industry, they just, don't even go towards that, don't even look at it a lot of the time. You know, I always think that those of us that struggle with carrying extra, you know, extra fat or extra weight, however, you know, and I really like that idea that you say about like releasing it, because it don't belong to us. And that's the thing, especially as empaths, you know, we're the ones that kind of society can go, meh, 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 look at you. And it's just like, we're carrying so much.
Yeah.
Like, we're the strong ones. You buckle under this, a lot of it, you know, other people. Yeah, so I really like that. How do you manage that? Obviously, people arrive at your door because they want to lose weight, and or to release the weight. And how do you, I'm just thinking in my mind, what that brings up is this idea of, how do I know that I actually do genuinely want to release weight, or I'm just listening to what society tells me to do about how I should look? How do you begin to navigate that?
I love that question. So here's what happens is, and we have this really amazing body positivity movement going on, where women, healthy at any size and every size, and, and loving your body and stepping into that. And what I'm finding is a lot of women are trying to step into that.
Yeah.
And they're feeling inauthentic. They're feeling like, I want to be body positive, but I also want to release weight. And people think those contradict each other, but they can coexist. You can still love yourself as you are today and want to release the weight. That's okay. And so I think people can get confused that I can only be one or the other. Yeah. If I love and accept myself how I am today, how dare I say I want to release weight?
Yeah.
But, it's okay. It's okay to say that. And that's where that tripped me up for a long time. Mm-hmm. If I'm carrying 10 or 20 extra pounds and I love myself, why would I want to get rid of part of me? Yeah. Right. But that part of me is a part of me that felt like it was weighing me down, hurting my knees, all of these other things that were happening. Mm-hmm. So, if you can love yourself and still want to release the weight. It's actually easier if you can love yourself through your process and love and accept yourself today. It's a much easier process than to begin to release the weight. Much easier.
Yeah. So you don't want to be waiting until you've lost the weight. If you try and wait until you've released the weight to love yourself, it's not going to happen. Yeah,
right. I don't think that's possible. It doesn't happen. You're absolutely right. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because it kind of, sometimes when I look around in the world, and it's like, I'm not there at the moment, but I used to go to CrossFit quite a bit, and I'm a runner, and it's like strong is a new sexy, and it's just can't get away from being kind of objectified sometimes. So there's that inner rebellion, which is just, you know what, nobody's going to tell me what I look like, but what I need to look like, but at the same time, it feels like I don't have a right to decide for myself. Like, my body just doesn't belong to me. I can imagine a lot of people feeling like that. I'm not supposed to want to be slim. I'm not supposed to be bothered by it. All those, there's so much there.
Right. And it is so conflicting because, if you're, if you're heavier, you get judged. If you're thinner, you get judged. Yeah. If you're in between, you get judged, and not to mention, the minute you lose 5 pounds, you have people going, "Oh, you've lost weight." And it's almost, and so it's like, is that all you notice about me is my size? And unfortunately, the diet industry is huge and influential, and they send all these messages to us telling us constantly, you're not enough. You're not thin enough. You're not going to be able to hike and have the love of your life and have your best career if you are not a size 4. And that's simply not true.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different ideal weight. And your ideal weight might carry a little extra weight, maybe carry some extra pounds. Your ideal weight may be bigger or smaller than you really think it is. So, we do have these different messages. And I saw this ad yesterday, and it started out so good. This guy was saying, if you've been trying to lose weight and you can't, and and it's your, it's your mindset. And then I was like, oh, okay, he's going on the good track, talking about the mindset. And then he said, we're going to teach you how to eat. And I went, oh, no, because it's not, we know how to eat. Everybody knows how to eat. Everybody knows how to eat for their body. And yeah, there is some of learning, the intuitive eating is great, how to learn how to eat. But, it really is about shifting the mindset, healing the old core wounds and the beliefs and all of that around it. So that when you get pummeled by these messages with society, you go, no, that's not for me anymore. I'm on my own path, and those messages don't get into my brain anymore. So
it's like really being in the driver's seat of your own journey with your weight and your body. So
absolutely.
if somebody was to say to you, like you were saying, you know, one of the first things that comes up for people when we think about doing this journey of releasing weight is the deprivation. Because so can you like illuminate for us all like your version, you know, obviously you don't believe in that, but what your approach is that's different to that?
Yeah, it's so interesting because that's one of the very first things that we talk about in the program that I run is where have you been deprived in your life? Where were you deprived as a child? Where were you deprived as a teenager? And where do you continue to deprive yourself today? And it's so interesting. We'll see patterns of deprivation. So maybe as a child, you were deprived of love and attention, and you know, maybe your parents were neglectful, or you weren't raised by them, or there was a lot of trauma happening for you. So where were you deprived, and now where are you depriving yourself now? So when we go into this diet and deprivation cycle again, we're triggering all of that old stuff. So we're like, oh, here we are being deprived again. And then we step into depriving ourselves because we're going into these diets as well. So I don't like the deprivation. I don't like the diets to say you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't do this, because there's no one diet that fits everybody. And what happens is the minute you deprive yourself, what happens? The minute you say, I can never, ever have another Oreo, you can't stop thinking about Oreos, right? It's true. I've tested it on myself and gone, okay, I'm never having another potato chip in my life.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen because I love potato chips. So if I try to deprive myself of it, and that's what we keep doing, we keep saying, okay, I'm going to fit myself into this little tiny box of a diet and not step outside my box. And then it doesn't work. And then you call yourself a failure and you beat yourself up. And then you try to go in the next box, and this cycle that happens again and again and again, this deprivation cycle. So just stepping out of that and finding ways to nourish yourself that work for you. And so everybody is so unique and wonderful, and our bodies are so amazing. They really know, like my body knows what it likes to eat and what it doesn't. And if people can start to learn that, and then also, you know, nourishing themselves in different ways and stepping out of deprivation.
So my background is as an addiction counsellor, but I tend to work with people with alcohol dependencies, and I have worked with clients with food. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting, I'd love to hear your take on this, like obviously food, we can't just stop eating it anyway. Like with alcohol, you could abstain if you want, and that works for some people and not for others. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but for food, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. Just give me a minute, my question is going to come back to me. That's it. And I came across a phrase years ago, which was food is a good girl's drug. Food is a good girl's drug. And I don't know if you've heard that before, or whether you've just got a, like, so I just, if nothing comes up for you, then it doesn't matter. I just wondering is like, as you hear that and think about your work that you do.
Yeah. Because it's so true. Yeah. There's so much guilt around eating. There's so much self-shaming, self-blaming, guilt, and all of these emotions that come up when we're eating. So there's this conflicting information. When we're younger, we sit around the table and we eat with our family, and it's a good time. And, we eat whatever mom makes. And then when we grow up, suddenly we're doing the same thing, and we're told, oh, well, don't eat that spaghetti, and don't eat that, and don't eat this. So it can be difficult, because you're right. We have to have food to live, right?
Yeah.
So, and there is so much, even if you notice when you go out to lunch with girlfriends, somebody is going to say, oh, I'm going to order this cheeseburger, I'm just going to be bad today. Oh, if I have dessert, I'm going to be so bad. But then they do it. So it's so interesting how we're calling ourselves bad, but then we're doing it anyways. But, so that's a whole different thing that's happening. But why is it bad to want dessert? Why is it bad to want a cheeseburger? So why is that bad? It's not, but we've been told it's bad. So then we guilt ourselves. We've been told that's not on your diet. Yeah. It's not on what you're supposed to be eating. So
how do you help people transition through that? Because obviously if we ate, I mean, I know that there's law of attraction and, well, not law of attraction, but I know like a lot of science and it's so, nutrition as a science is so young, but what we think about what we're eating really affects how we digest it, doesn't it? It affects. Like, it really affects how much of the nutrition we can actually absorb from it, how we judge ourselves. And I was thinking, if I see, I'm imagining some people listening would be like, well, I can't eat at McDonald's every day. And it, you know, that fear that if I just stopped restricting myself, I would eat the house. Because when I was binging and purging and all that kind of, I had some, you know, issues, like strong issues with food. I used to say I could inhale the living room. It, like when I eat, it just felt like I inhaled everything, you know. It's just like it didn't stop. And for people that are trying to come out of that, it's like if I take the brakes off, I've had it.
Right. And that's a good point. And that can happen to some people. They loosen their grip on food, and suddenly it becomes this, you know, they may go a couple days or a couple weeks where they're just like completely, you know, eating everything that they've restricted themselves from. Yeah. But what I always tell people, there's enough for you. There's enough. And so once we can start to learn, you have to kind of unlearn that deprivation, right? Because when we're saying, like using the Oreos again, when we say I can never have another Oreo, and then all you can think about is Oreos. Whereas if I say you can have all the Oreos you want, in the first couple days, you might eat a ton of Oreos. And then you're like, wait, there's a never-ending supply of Oreos for me. I can just have one when I want one. That's what you want to get to. I can have one when I want one. I can have that when I want it, and when it feels good to me. And sooner or later, maybe you're only eating one Oreo a month, or maybe you don't eat them at all because you realize you don't really like them. So it really is changing that mindset, because when we restrict ourselves like that, it almost becomes panic, right? So when you think about, I can't ever have another piece of another Oreo, you feel panicky, right? So it's really retraining yourself, if you will, and reinstilling the beliefs of trust and love and respect for yourself, and knowing that you can make good decisions. Knowing that you know what's right for you. And it's not just you jump from A to B. There's quite a bit of work in between. There's healing work of, how did you get to this place? What are the repeating thoughts going on in your mind? What did you learn about eating when you were younger? What did you learn about yourself when you were younger? What did you learn about deprivation and restriction and, you know, self-love? And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of us were raised, you know, with comments being made to us or things happening to us, and that can sometimes get stuck. And so we want to remove what's stuck so that you can get to the place of, you know, trusting yourself, because it really is about trusting yourself. So how, I mean, I don't know if this is going too much into the program that you offer, so please don't feel, you know, any questions that I ask, don't feel obliged. But how do you, I can imagine some people thinking, well, how do I stop thinking like that though? How do I remove, like you just said, you remove it. So do you use energy healing or energy techniques as So part of the program is we do a lot of work around, and a lot of it, I will tell you, is awareness, because sometimes we're not even aware of, I mean, I've even had clients to do a ticker sheet of how many times during the day do you have this specific negative thought about yourself? How many times a day do you say, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this? How many times do you berate yourself during the day? And then they take it, and then sometimes they'll go, oh my God, 28 times today I made a negative comment about myself in my mind. That's a lot. So we want to change that narrative that's going on. So then I'll say, okay, every time that happens, replace that thought with something else. And I'll give them a different affirmation. Like you said, law of attraction is amazing. You know, we want to invite in the new, the new beliefs, right? So having that affirmation as well. And then I do, and we do a lot, there's a lot of homework during the program. We have weekly calls, and then I do energy healing on the group. So so it's an 8-week program. 4 times during the program, I'm doing energy healing on the group, because what happens is these emotions can start to come up, and it's helpful to have someone who does energy work go, okay, let me help you remove those emotions. Let me help you, you know, with healing that trauma that might be stuck there, that stuff that's stuck in the body. Let's help that. So I always recommend anybody who's going through any sort of, you know, I don't want to call it really recovery program, but program like this, that they get healing work if the person who's doing the program is not doing the healing work, to add that in, some sort of energy work, or, you know, Reiki or touch therapy, or I do pranic healing. Pranic healing is amazing. So anything like that, I think is really helpful to accelerate the process.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. And I know in my personal journey, I just the thing that really surprised me was I radically changed my life, but it didn't feel radical because it just felt like the next step. So I left a marriage. We're still really good co-parents now, but I left a marriage because we'd outgrown it. It needed to transform. I started living somewhere else, and then I realized how important my work was, and I'd lost myself in my parenting. And what I realize and what I find with people is that food takes up all of this time. And one of the things that we used to ask people, if they were in, like, put your addictions to one side, put your drinking to one side, what else is going on in your life? And if you didn't have that to think about, what else would you be doing? Because most of the time we have got past pain, but we've got a huge appetite for life, and that's what we're really hungry for. That's the bit that we want, and it's like our experience of life.
Yes, I love that. Just and when you think about it, especially with food, right? Because I remember, being on a certain program, I won't name it here, but every day was,
I really want to know
how can I fit my day into my food, instead of how can I fit my food into my day? Right. And so that it becomes, and you're writing stuff down and counting all kinds of things and weighing food, and it really becomes, you're not done with one meal before you think about what you get to eat next, because you
can be like that.
And your brain isn't nourished enough, and oh my gosh, it becomes, you're right, it becomes all consuming. And so that is definitely one of the questions I ask. If you weren't a dieter, who would you be? Really, if you weren't, because we tend to bond, as women especially, we tend to bond over what diet we're on and what exercise program we're doing and all these different things. So what would it be like to say, I eat what I want and I move the way I like it? Think about how that's like, oh, wow, how amazing is that? And then, like you said, there's so much space for living your life. There's so much space for joy and playing with your children and going to the park and taking hikes and starting a business and all these different things that you have all this space for. And I started my business at the age of 46. I was, I was in corporate America, burning myself out completely. And that's when, I got sick and I had all these revelations and my life completely shifted.
You get to it. That's brilliant. I'm really glad you shared that. And I think the good thing about starting something new at that age is you just like, do you know what? I'm doing it. I hate that it's my time, because I think it's a freaking cliche. It should always be your time, but I get to decide. I'm just going to decide how I'm going to live my life and what I'm going to do, and it's going to be my rules. And I think that's probably a big part of it too.
Right. And you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to this is my life and I get to make the rules, right? You don't have to do everything society says for you to do. Do it your way. This is your life. Do it your way. Live out loud.
Yeah, because like you said before, people are going to judge you. I do. And then I catch we judged each other. We're just in it. And some of us are trying to, wake up to that and to get out of that conditioning, and some of us aren't as interested in doing that, but we do it all of the time. So you might as well just get judged for something that you want to do.
And I'll tell you, I shared in my group week before last that I found myself falling back into judgment. I had seen this picture or post of something from this woman, and I found myself going back to the old, because sometimes that stuff still wants to sneak up.
For sure.
But then you have the tools to go, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to judge this person and reframing it. And, so I'm certainly not perfect, and it is definitely a journey, definitely a journey, but having the tools to, step out of this space, like you said, of deprivation and restriction and shame and blame and all of that into just, living life and hungry for life. I love that you said that, because that's just amazing. Yeah.
And what the other things that I'm kind of like feeling into what might be coming up for people listening to it is that the incredible amount of pleasure that we get from food, and that needs to continue, whatever.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And also, sorry, go on.
I always tell people, don't eat food that isn't beautiful and doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. I mean, because we eat this diet food out of boxes and we're like, oh, this is gross and it tastes microwaved. Don't eat that. If it doesn't taste good to you, don't eat it.
Yeah. The biggest thing, God, it's easy, like putting healthy food in the bin if you don't like the taste of it, or expensive food in the bin if you don't like tasting it, or you don't like, you don't want to finish your plate because it's not, but I've spent loads of money on it. And like I always say to my kids, it's whether it goes in the bin or whether it goes in your body, it's still rubbish. Like, where does rubbish belong? If you don't like it, or it's not, but it's so hard.
I'll share a secret with you.
Go on then.
I don't like kale. It's so funny because people just, because they assume that I, eat kale and all this stuff. And I'm like, kale's not my favorite, but it's right. We put all this stuff in our cart, and then we get home, we're like, I don't want to eat that, and then throw it away. Yeah. Have pleasure in food. It's because, think about food is amazing, right? And it brings community, and it brings us joy, and there's no reason to stop having that. But there's just a way to get the underlying emotions that are causing maybe the binge eating, the overeating, the emotional eating. We do that for a reason. We do that for comfort, for a reason, to comfort ourselves from some wounds. So if we can get to that, heal from that place, then you begin to love yourself in the foods that you choose and the things that you choose to do every single day. It just shifts. Yeah.
What would be your kind of, there's like, I don't normally use top tips, but that's the words that are coming for me. So top tips around, I'm just thinking like conversations I've had with people, other ways of being nourished or receiving pleasure that aren't food related. I'd be interested in what comes up for people, or what, if you see a pattern or anything, because baths are good, but they don't do it all. You know what I mean? It's like, even that, we're told just have a bath and a bubble bath and relax, and it's like, no, it's not enough.
Right. Yeah. So definitely self-care falls up in there. Definitely. And it doesn't have to be bubble baths. So self-care, I always say, what is self-care to you? What does self-care look like to you? And what aren't you doing that you want to be doing? Right. So if you're a busy mom, and you're finding yourself, feeling tired and exhausted, what is something that you really want to be doing that you're not doing, that you can somehow fit into your day? Right. Maybe that is, you want to take 5 minutes to read, or, but what happens is we don't nourish that part of ourselves, and then we start to eat, right? Because we're feeling deprived, and we're feeling empty, and we're trying to fill a void. So my top tips, of course, are being aware of where the self-talk is, aware of when you find yourself in a space of maybe emotional eating, what's really going on for you, what's really happening, like tapping into yourself, tuning into yourself, and saying, okay, what are the emotions that are coming up right now to be fed, and finding, if you can find a different way, maybe you're having some anxiety over something, and so you're turning to food. Maybe you can take a walk instead, or maybe you can call a friend instead. So finding different ways to fill that anxiety or fill that void that aren't food related. So being in awareness, nourishing yourself without food in that way is really helpful. And just getting support. Definitely getting support.
I remember figuring out that I wanted crisps for the crunch when I was really angry. Like really angry. And I didn't know at that time how to deal with anger. It's not, you know, it's something that I'm still working out my relationship to. I'm a lot better than it is now, than it was. But I was like, that crunch was my way of, but it's, you know, it's internalized. And I think that can be like, I don't know, it's not fun necessarily, but it can be like a really joyful self-discovery, all of this. It can be it's got nothing to do with the weight, like you've been saying. It's all to do with like just deepening your relationship with yourself and learning about what really, really supports you and what really, really makes you feel good.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up, the crunch and the anger, because anger is a big one. And where is the anger coming from? What are you really angry at? How can we start to heal that anger instead of, you know, having to, you know, do the crunch, because you're trying to let it out in any way that you can. So finding a way that works for you to start healing with the anger. And that's, we do shadow work too in the program.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the women in it, this is the first time they've done shadow work. They're very unfamiliar with it. And they're like, oh, wow, look at how my anger shows up. Wow, look at how my fear shows up. Look at how my jealousy and comparison shows up. And it's interesting because it will show up in different food cravings. It will show up in different ways. Yeah. And then they always feel it in a different spot in their body. It can kind of correspond with their chakras. I'm like, okay, you feel it in your chest. Where are you feeling like you need more love, or you're unlovable? Maybe one of their core wounds is being unlovable. So let's work from that place. So it's really interesting.
We are so clever, aren't we? Really, when you think about it, in terms of like supporting ourselves and coping strategies and trying, you know, we can give ourselves a really hard time about binging or emotional eating, but when you think about it, that connection between when I feel this, I get an automatic craving for that. My body's trying hard to give me that. It's like it's trying to be my friend. Because that's the other thing, is like it feels like your body's against you, and it's not. It's really trying to be your friend. It's so clever.
Yeah, and I love that you said that too, because we're very disconnected from our bodies. Very disconnected, because we live up here. We're in such a busy world right now that we're always thinking about, what do I have to do next? I have to go to the grocery store, I have to do this, I have to go to work. And then we're like, oh, my body, you know, it's like we dress it and it takes us from here to there. But really stopping and listening to your body and dropping down into your body and learning to, you know, love and honor your body. Mirror work is really helpful for that, because sometimes we don't even really like look at our own hands or look at our own body, except to be critical. So looking at yourself with love and getting back in touch with your body, and where is all this showing up in your body and what's happening? Because sometimes, you know, women, if they feel out of control of their lives, they can have digestive issues. That can also lead to weight gain. You know, having digestive issues, like you said, you're not absorbing the food, you're not eliminating properly. All these different things can start to show up. So it's so interesting. The body is so wise, like you said.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I've got a really short story to share. It feels okay. When I was getting towards the size I wanted to be, because when I was losing weight, I was very specific. I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to, you know, I really wanted this specific size. And then after that, my body just started doing things, and it became more in charge. And now I'm on this kind of other journey. But at the time, that's what I did. I remember for the first time, I must have been I was in my early 30s, and it was the first time I looked in the mirror and just thought, damn, you look good. And then I fell down the stairs, and I rang my friend, and I said, I think I've just thrown myself down the stairs because I had a good thought about my body. You know, it's like I might have a bit of work to do. And I just, it's like, it's just, but that feeling of being able to look before it's perfect, and, you know, or before it's how you want it to look. I love that that's kind of where you start. And this whole, you know, your whole way of working, it's from the inside out. That's what it
from the inside out. Exactly. And being able to look at your body with love for everything. Look at my beautiful tummy that had babies, and look at my strong legs that carry me around, and my hands that, allow me to pick things up. I mean, just having deep appreciation for your body, that alone creates huge shifts.
Yeah.
Once you can get into a place of feeling safe and appreciating your body can start to feel safe to let the weight go, because we often carry, what is called pounds of protection.
Yeah.
So how can we begin to feel safe? How can we begin to love and accept ourselves? And like you said, I mean, you should look in the mirror every day and say, you're hot, you're beautiful, I love you, all these beautiful things you can say to yourself. And at first it feels funny, and you might feel that feels funny, that feels inauthentic, just because it feels funny to say that to ourselves, but just keep doing it.
And that's that's kind of like the final thing, is that acknowledgement that what we're saying here, it's not an easy journey. It's not like an easy fix, but it's got longevity to it. And I think it's okay that we find it difficult. It's okay that it's taking time. It's okay that it's probably like a journey that you're going to have for the rest of your life, because you want to deepen that connection with your body. So I think it's important to say that's okay.
Right. And one of the things we do too is I always ask people, when did you start having these negative thoughts about your body? Yeah. And sometimes people say it's as early as, 3, 4, 5. So if you're now, 50 years old, you've been doing this 45 years. 45 years you've had these negative thoughts about yourselves and feeling unhappy with yourself and not loving yourself and your body. And so it's, it is a journey, and this is not a quick fix, but neither is, going on the latest diet fad, because then you do it, you deprive yourself, you restrict yourself, and gain the weight back, and then you're back in that space of self-shame and blame. Yeah. So sometimes it's time to just do the deeper work and heal, because it's such a gift to yourself. Such a gift to yourself.
Reclaiming it, isn't it? Reclaiming it, yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm imagining that there's people that have got a lot from that, and kind of food for thought, excuse the pun. And so if people just are genuinely, responding and thinking, I really, I want to find out more, I want to start a relationship with you and see whether it's going to work for me, where can they find you?
So I have a website. It's michellemcclintock.com. Can we share that somewhere?
I'll put it in the show notes. Perfect. It's fine. Yeah, you sent it over to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you can see I have my next program starts February the 12th. Okay. And if you have questions about it or want to talk with me, I do offer a free consultation, a full hour consultation. So we can talk and see, even if, that might be enough to give you some quick tips or, tricks. You might decide the program's for you. I do one-on-one work for folks that if the group isn't for them and they want more specialized individual work as well. Yeah. So they can find that there. I do also have a Healing Circle membership that I do group healings on too. So if someone's not quite ready for a program, they just want to kind of see what I'm about. That's a great way to get to know me as well.
Yeah. Because trust is a big part of, who you choose to work with when you do emotional work like that. So people will be able to see from the level that you've been sharing that kind of resonance. So that's really, really good that you offer an hour, for people to see.
Yeah, I think you need an hour really to get to know if someone's the right fit for you, right?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, making me think more as well. Okay, well, take care. And
thank you, you too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.